Hi guys, welcome to not 7 loser here. So today we'll be telling you about the OS wars between Android and Apple. So let's take a quick review on both. Before we start the review, I want to tell you guys that we have tested this OS in a pretty harsh way, as harsh we are possible to do, and we have made the decision. And at the end of the day, it's up to you. So let's start. Why people buy phones, smartphones? Simply, apps. Simple. Pretty simple. They don't buy it to make phone calls, they don't buy it to text message. They buy it because of apps. So it's between Android and iOS. So let's start with Android. In Android, you can see a lots and lots of apps in its Play Store or store, whatever you call it. But they just have the quantity of apps, but I can't see the quality. Quality in the sense there are fake apps, unwanted apps, malware apps, viruses. They pretty suck, In the Apple, it's not the same case. You have very useful apps. There are no unwanted apps. They're pretty secure, You can have it. They're not that high secure. It's secure, but it has some flaws in it. It's okay with it. And you can't see unwanted apps in iOS. So that's a good thing. So Apple wins in the apps. So let's take over the looks and feel about the phone. Android is customizable. It's one of the really good features that Google has brought to Android. You can customize it, but even it has a disadvantage, The more you customize, the phone gets slower and slower and slower. If you add widgets, if you use them, it gets slower and slower. I mean, seriously, you guys must be having Android phones, and if you use for a week and for a month, it will get slower. But in the Apple, it's not the same case, The phone doesn't get slower even after weeks and months, but in Android, it just gets slower. So that's not a good thing about Android, And the third thing is, in Android, the apps keep on running in the background. You can see the background applications, they just keep on running unnecessarily. I mean, the apps which you don't use also, they just keep on running. Increase in RAM consumption, battery life, data usage. I mean, why is this shit going on in Android? Why do they simply keep running unnecessarily when I don't need it? But in Apple, it's not the same case. I don't think so. They run unnecessarily like Android, And apps are pretty much secure in Apple, I can say. And Android, it gets hangs, lags, and it gets slower and slower. But in Apple, there are very rare cases, here and there, but not for everyone. In Android, each and every person using Android phones get this thing, It hangs, it lags, everything. So that's not a good thing you can go for, which hangs and lags and gets slower after days. I would be pretty much pissed off if I pay for these kind of phones, And most of the Android phones at this time, they need quad-core or a dual-core or an octa-core processor, not dual-core. I mean, you get phones with dual-core, but they're not speed as you see. Quad-core or octa-core, it is and the minimum RAM required is 2 gigs, But in Apple, it's not the same case. You need a dual-core processor and a single gigs of RAM. That's more than sufficient for it, Apple. But Android, I don't know, with having an octa-core or quad-core processor, it just gives the speed of a dual-core processor. I mean, what's the use of having a quad-core and octa-core processor and 2 to 3 gigs of RAM? No use. Simply spending money. I mean, people tell, I have an octa-core processor. And an iPhone guy tells, I have a dual-core, let's check out the speed. Ha ha ha, they come. And at the time, Apple wins. Plain and simple. Apple. Camera. When it comes to camera, I mean, Apple has beaten each and every camera of Android or other OS also, which is just 8 megapixel camera. That's really cool. And Android having a 13 megapixel to 20 to 35 to 40, how much over, it has lost against 8 megapixel. That's pretty shame, Android, very much shameful. And in Android, you don't have a fully image editor inbuilt, Yeah, but in other OS, I think they have pretty much image editors. But when buying a camera, you should not always go on the pixels. I want to tell you guys this because most of them say I have like a 39 megapixel, a 13 megapixel, 40 megapixel. I mean, what's the use of having just pixels? you should see also the quality of the screen, you know. It should be a high quality of screen. The lens of the camera which they are using, it should be really good, and the PPI of the screen must be more than 350. More than 350, that's sufficient. And that's about the cameras. Now let's come to voice recognition. Siri versus Google now. I mean, there are like hundreds of videos on YouTube. You can just check out those videos, but personally Siri is the best. And Google now, it's pretty much the worst stage at right now, as you can see, because if you ask a common question, what's the weather, both of them give a right answer, you know. But you ask something a tricky question, then Google now fails. Such questions like as, did my friend had call me? Apple says no, your friend had didn't call me. But in Google now, it says it will search on the internet, did my friend had call me? I mean, how does the internet knows? Pretty shame on this Google. This is a very big defect of Google now, you see. If you ask a tricky question, it definitely fails. Security. Android is not at all secure. I want to tell you guys this because security is important at this age. You know, this time it's very important. Money is not valuable. Information is valuable. Information is money. If you have information, you have money. You are a millionaire. Okay. So Android is not pretty secure, but Apple is a bit secure. It has flaws in it. But if you compare with an iOS and Android, iOS is much better than Android. That's what we can see. And Android, the one pretty good thing in Android is that you can expand the storage externally. Most of the Android phones have, you can expand the storage with a micro SD card, but in Apple it's not the same case. You should buy, you get just 3 variants, you know, 16 gigs, 32 gigs or 64 gigs. I mean, I think the bigger the better. In some cases, bigger is not better always, but bigger, in this case, bigger is better. So I would go for 64 gigs, you know. Okay, and in Android and Apple, both don't have one thing in common. They just don't have, that is work mode and personal mode, which is really important for today's businessman and other guys who use 2 mobiles. Most of them use a Blackberry for their office work and an Android or iOS for their personal. But in Apple and Android, they don't have this thing in common. They should bring this thing in common. But Blackberry has got this. So I'll be telling more about Blackberry Windows Phone in my future videos. Until then, I want to tell you another good thing about Google. Google's chairman, Eric, uses a Blackberry. I don't know why, but it's plain and simple. It's much better. I mean, he could use an Android. Why is not using? It's not better. It's plain and simple. Blackberry is better. So I'll get to know all this good stuff in my next videos. Until then, don't forget to subscribe, like and share. Please leave the comments below. Until then, cheers.